What's up, everybody? Welcome to the State of Wild, episode 129, a regular YouTube video web series podcast thingy. My name is Meowth, and as usual, I'm joined with two good friends and co-host, Roffle and Corbett. Guys, how you doing today? Long time no see.
Yeah, it has been a while. A couple days, in fact. We went from like skipping weeks to doing multiple episodes per week. What's wrong with us? Either way, there's no time for small talk. We've got a lot of cards to look at.
Yeah, we gotta go. Let's jump in, Meowth. Let's get right in.
All right. No more pleasantries? Sounds good. All right, we've got like another 50 cards to talk about today, so I'm very glad we did our episode last week, or I guess in the middle of the week. But let's dive into it. We got a lot of cards from the new expansion, starting with Death Knight. Let's start with Death Growl. This is a 1-mana Unholy spell. Choose a minion, spread its Death Rattle to adjacent minions. So it looks like we're getting a little bit of a Death Rattle support theme here for Death Knight. 1 mana, 1 Unholy. Is this kind of like one of those play dead style enablers where like we're going to look at it, you know, maybe in a couple expansions it's going to be really, really gross and strong?
Maybe like one benefit here is like you could give minions that are able to attack this turn the Death Rattle, which effectively makes it a bit of a play dead and makes it a little bit like better in terms of getting value off of it than just like hoping that the Death Rattle goes off, because Death Rattles are inherently very slow when compared to the Battle Cries, and that's kind of like why they struggle a little bit, or why they excel on things like Taunt or Rush, so that you can get the immediate impact. This has some potential. Will depend on like the quality of the Death Rattles that become available to Death Knight. Like a lot of the neutral ones are probably too expensive for what you want to do with this card right now, but you know, there may be some potential down the line with new cards released this expansion or in the future. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on, I think.
For sure, like potential for mana cheating is huge. Like Rob said, not entirely sure if there is like the right Death Rattle support just yet. Like we do have the Foul Egg, Nerubian Egg, Harbinger in Frost. We'll just have to wait and see, but like very, very, very high potential card down the road.
All right, so let's move on to another kind of support piece here, though, for the Death Rattle decks, and that is Mosh Pit, which is a 2-mana, 2 durability location. Spend 3 corpses to give a friendly minion reborn. So not only do you have to spend the 2 mana for the location, you also have to spend 3 corpses every time you activate it, which is not great for us, but it does look like, you know, you want to give those high-value Death Rattles reborn, so you get more of them, is the idea behind it.
Right, and like Death Rattle things are generally the target for this. Death Rattle things kind of want to die, so Corb may be onto something with stuff like Foul Egg, Haunted Creeper that like generates corpses while also having a pretty high-value Death Rattle. That said, like the fact that this is 2 mana is kind of offset by the fact that then you have like an extra expense in the corpse requirement, so I don't know if it'll be fast enough. And then on top of that, like I don't know, it really feels like you're overpaying for Reborn with this card in general, which like locations, you know, their benefit has been that like you underpay because you space it out over turns, and this feels like you're overpaying a little bit too much for what you're getting out of it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like typically the location like payoff has been like an effect that costs maybe is valued at like 1 less than the location, and then you get to trigger it multiple times. So you see that with Hand of Odal and the Cathedral. You see it with things like Inner Rage in Warrior. But here we have an Embalming Ritual, and we only get 2 triggers, and so it's kind of like it's not really. You're not really making your values worth, it feels like. And yeah, I mean, it is even costed, so that obviously gets people excited, but I really don't think there's kind of like the shell for it. I mean, the Nerubian Egg, we can keep pushing this 1 card, but I don't think it's enough to justify like going as far into the like Death Rattle package and things like that just yet.
Yeah, Nerubian Egg plays really, really well with all of these things, but I think we're also very past the days where Nerubian Egg is the thing that you want to be doing in our format.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have Bone Shredder. So it looks like it's definitely Unholy, which is getting all the Death Rattle support. And let's talk about Bone Shredder. So this is a 5-mana, 1 Unholy Rune, 5/4 Undead. A lot of qualifiers there. Battle Cry. Spend 5 corpses to trigger and gain the Death Rattle of a random friendly minion that died this game. So you really, really want those like high-value Death Rattles, and then you 5-mana, 5/4, spend 5. But then you get basically 2 copies of this Death Rattle. 1 immediate, 1 late.
I'm seeing 4 copies with Bran. and 10 corpses. Yeah, I mean, this has some serious upside. It's almost a cube, right? Like that's pretty silly. I misread it and just like saw gain its death run. I'm like, oh god, not another one of these. But the fact that you're triggering it immediately, yeah, there could be something to a death rattle. This may be why Carnivorous Cube didn't make it into the core set. By the way, is cards like this that the Death Knight death rattle cards could be part of the reason why.
I mean, it's better than cube, right? Because it's the same. Like you could double up on the death rattle, but you get an immediate effect on it. The like potential in this guy is insane. It's like reviewing hunter cards, except you actually have hope for the death rattle package in the future. So instead of just play dead and all that stuff, it's like maybe this is good. I had a look through all the death rattles available, and it was hard to find something that was really like worth doing in wild, even with the neutrals. There are like a few funny ones. Sergeant Sally is actually like the funniest one that I could think of, where it'll steal 5 AoE and then you kill it, it'll be another 5 AoE. But apart from that, it was hard to find stuff. But yeah, like this set is very like future oriented, I think, for Wild Death Knight. And it's a nice shell for it to move on to the future, even if there's probably not going to be a deck right now.
Yeah, isn't Sergeant Sally also undead for all those sweet synergies?
Oh, yeah, the deck is just piecing itself together. Like it's easy deck building, I say.
I mean, we've got 3 pieces. It's already built. What do you need?
Yeah, there you go. All right, to top it all off, we're gonna top our curves with Cagehead. That is an 8-mana legendary, 2 unholy runes for an undead 5/1. I repeat, 8 mana for a 5/1. Death Rattle. Summon a 9/9 Blightbore with charge and taunt. All right, so that's how you make up for the terrible 5/1 stats. But that is 9/9 charge. Those scary words, but it is 8 mana.
Yeah, without a way to cheat it out, it's coming down kind of slow for Wild, but like this is obviously meant to be the card that you want a Bone Shredder, that you want a Death Growl. So I could see some fun combos coming out of it. I don't know if it's just like, if you're already spending 8 mana, can you imagine getting this Earth Shocked off of a Zephyrus? And then it's just like, it's devastating. So you kind of need to make sure that you at least get one Death Rattle the turn it comes out, whether you're killing it yourself or whether you're copying the Death Rattle, I think. Or whether you have like a follow-up with the Bone Shredder. So
yeah. I could definitely see it in even Death Knight, like in Hot and Holy, and just because of the construct quarter, right? Like by turn 8, turn 9, you've probably always got a construct that's slow enough and has enough charges where you probably like have a charge left on it. And yeah, that deck definitely has some finishing potential. Some finishing issues when it doesn't have like the big wide board. So yeah, it's a lot of face damage. So I can say it there.
That's a lot of. I guess it's basically what, 8 mana, 2 cards for a Pyroblast, essentially.
Yeah, and the 4/5. Don't disregard the 4/5.
Yeah,
but
it's 8 mana,
Nah,
8 mana and
disrespect
half
that.
a card.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I also I think I can only see it though because Death Knight card quality also like isn't super great in terms of Wild, but yeah, I'm just imagining these scenarios where you like don't draw your construct quarter and then you just played an 8 mana 5/1.
Yeah, that's rough. But
Just be good.
yeah, just be good.
Yeah, it's just a skill issue if you don't have the construct quarter. All right, so on unholy Death Rattle synergies and Death Knight, how are we feeling before we move on? Quick words.
I think, like Corb said, there's some really interesting future potential to it. I don't know if Cagehead is the card, but like, eventually we'll get some fun stuff that we can do with it. It probably will be just at best a mid to low tier deck, but like it could be fun to try out. Like I think Bone Shredder is kind of the nuts, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen 8 Death Knight cards, and 6 of them have been odd costed, so it's not like the most wild, relevant list so far, but we'll see in the future, because they are very, very powerful.
Yeah, there'll just be another busted standard Death Knight deck that you can just port over to Wild, add a Loatheb, and then you're good to go.
Oh, like that'll work me out. That's never going to happen.
Yeah, of course not. All right, let's move into to Demon Hunter here. We haven't seen any of these Demon Hunter cards. We got 8 to talk about. Let's start with Eye of Shadow. 2 mana, 2/3 demon. Your hero has lifesteal. So this sounds like we're doing some combo-y stuff in Demon Hunter now that Il'gynoth has rotated. Do you guys just want to not really touch on this and talk about some of the things that you can abuse with it instead?
I mean, you can abuse it with Il'gynoth if you use the Screamer to reduce its cost to 0, and then you got a new hero card that attacks a bunch of random things, right? So like, it's not a good combo for Wild, but it is a combo. I think even just like paired with a Jace or a Jace type deck, you can turn into almost like that old Kingsbane for a bit. There's like the Glaive, Dispose of Evidence type aggro Demon Hunter as well. So like that deck, you know, is pretty susceptible to just being raced down. So that could be an answer there. I don't know how strong this card is, but like, you know, there's some cute things that you can do with it.
Yeah, I don't really think it fits anything that can work in Wild Demon Hunter, at least right now. But I mean, the healing potential is kind of off the charts. So, another like a nice long-term piece probably for the class.
Yeah, the thing is that like a lot, especially that Fell Demon Hunter, it is not hurting for healing with the release of Silver Moon Arcanist and like all those kinds of things. So it's like, yeah, it solves the problem that those type of decks don't have right now. Like, it's not more damage with Il'gynoth, it's just different damage with Il'gynoth, probably or less mana or less damage for more mana is really the problem. So yeah, I don't think it has like an immediate impact necessarily.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about other cards kind of in context, because it does seem like they are pushing kind of like a weapon or like hero attack Demon Hunter. So I kind of want to pivot all the way to the legendary spell here that says going down swinging. And so I'm imagining the synergy there with Eye of Shadow. So this is a 5-mana spell that says give your hero +2 attack and immune this turn, and then attack each enemy minion. So kind of like a 2-card combo that then heals you back up to full. So I'm imagining that's kind of the play pattern that they're looking for there, but obviously scales well with stuff like Dispose of Evidence or weapons or things like that as well.
Yeah, or Il'gynoth and Eye of Shadow.
If we had like pre-nerf Warglaives of Azeroth, maybe there's something cute that you could have done there, where you could have just like preloaded it and then played like Twin Slice and going down swinging, and then all of a sudden you have like, I don't know, 25 burst. So yeah, no, how much damage? I don't know, like 20 damage to the opponent's head, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really say this one. It's very expensive. It's a lot of mana.
It is a lot of mana.
It also, like, I'm assuming each swing, like if you do have a weapon equipped, will use up your charges of your weapon, which is also a little bit unfortunate as well if you wanted to go face after. All right, kind of pushing that weapon theme, we have Instrument Smasher. 4 mana, 3/6. After your weapon is destroyed, equip a random Demon Hunter weapon. We kind of talked about this a little bit when we were doing our core set changes. A lot of Demon Hunter weapons are not very good. There are a couple good ones, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few expensive ones that don't see play and you forget about because they're expensive and they don't see play, which would be what you're aiming for off of this. But there's also a lot of 1 mana, especially in Wild, there's quite a few 1 mana weapons as well. So unless you're really just like multi-striking like every turn and really churning through your weapons, I don't know if Instrument Smasher has a great place.
Yeah, I hardly see the right place for this this card. It's kind of a bit too expensive, so it's gonna be a no-go, I think.
All right, unlucky. All right, let's talk about a sweet weapon that I think we're a little bit excited about. At least I am. Glaive Tar. I don't know that I pronounced that correctly, but we're gonna go with it. 4 mana, 4/2. Death Rattle. Draw 1 card. Play Outcast cards while this is equipped to improve. Ooh wee! Is this a weapon that we want in that Outcast Demon Hunter over something like Magnifying Glaive?
Yeah. That's one that I want. What? Like you're playing like, you know, at times like 5 or 6 Outcast cards a turn, like in that type of deck, and so you could very easily just play this, attack the next turn, you know, play 4 to 5 Outcast cards, and congratulations, you're drawing 6, and like potentially you know, still like this card seems insane in that deck. This card and a couple of others are just like that deck's gonna be nutty in the expansion, I think.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that it's better than Magnifying Glaive. Like I'm expecting it to be. It's just I don't know, like just how like Magnifying Glaive probably has higher upside in terms of just how cheap it is. Like it could potentially be like a draw 6 for 3, like 2 swings. But I don't know. I think like a lot of times it's very clunky and difficult, and especially if you're not running like Dispose and Biblimite and you're leaning more towards like the pure Outcast stuff. This kind of allows you to run some more expensive cards. It allows you to run Kurtrus, which is like probably a really big deal, right? You can't really play that kind of card in like a Glaive deck. So I'm very excited for this one, and yeah, I'm very pumped up about Outcast DH in general. I think it's not just this card; there's a few others that definitely going to help push the archetype in Wild.
Yeah, and I think it's like it's performing really well right now as it stands.
Yeah,
like,
it's good.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about some of those other cards though. Let's talk about Security. 2-mana spell. Summon 2/1/1 Illidari with Rush. Outcast. Summon 1 more. So basically 2 mana for 3/3 with Rush. Seems not bad.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that deck can, if it doesn't hit its wallopers, it can struggle when it gets behind, and this goes, you know, right in that. It's a great card. Like it's improving the Discover pool in general. So if you're running Exile for some reason, or if you're playing the Illidari studies, you're just like happy to see this card in most contexts. So it's a good card.
Yeah, definitely. Like a lot of time, especially if we're not running Dispose because we're not running Glaive and stuff, or Magnifying. I guess. Like, dude, why is every weapon called Glaive? Like come on, whatever. in Demon Hunter. This does give it like the 1 recovery option, because unless you like Illidari into an I-beam or something like that, if the opponent like coined a ship's cannon, sometimes you kind of wet your pants and there's nothing you can do about it. So having that kind of recovery is really good. And yeah, just like a lot of stats for, you know, a lot of stats for cost. So it seems solid. I really like it.
All right. Roffle, you mentioned the deck might struggle when you don't get to draw your Wallopers. So how about a card that just tutors your Wallopers? And that is Rush the Stage. 3 mana spell. Draw 2 Rush minions. They cost 1 less. 3 mana, draw your Wallopers. Go ahead and discount it by 1 without even having to play an Outcast card.
And this looks like 1 mana draw 2 to me.
I mean, sometimes when you get Fierce, it's like a 0 mana draw 2.
No. Oh, I forgot that card has Rush on its own. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, does this make the cut, though, in your aggro deck, is the question?
Aggro?
Like, I think your
Outcast deck, right?
Oh, yeah, like, no. Yeah, you don't. Yeah, I don't think you hesitate. You had this card.
yeah. I was like, yeah. Maybe we played in every Demon Hunter deck.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. Like, you tutor your best cards.
Yep.
I like tutoring my best cards. That sounds great.
So do I. And you're tutoring your best cards that play really nicely together too. Like if you hit the Fierce Outrider or whatever and a Walloper, like you're not upset about that because you didn't get double Walloper. Like the Outrider reduces the Walloper even further, and like and then also reduces the next Outcast card to further reduce the Walloper. So like if you just get 1 and 1, you're just like, yeah, this is great. I'm going to win this game.
Yeah, and this is definitely like another card which pairs a lot better with the 4 mana weapon compared to Magnifying Glaive. So it's just kind of like more reason to keep, you know, looking for reasons to play that weapon instead.
All right. The next 2 cards that we're going to talk about are kind of a push towards a token style Demon Hunter deck. We kind of alluded to that with the I already forgot the name of the card. The 3 mana 3/3
Wrathscale Naga.
That thing.
Only one person here knows would ever have any chance of knowing that one.
But yeah, we're looking at some more token cards. We got Snakebite. It's a 2 mana 1/1 Naga. Rush. Battlecry. Gain +1/+1 for each minion that died this turn. Important to note that it says each minion, not each friendly minion. So if you play like the 3 mana 1/1s and kill off like 3 1/1s from an Odd Paladin, this is now a 2 mana 7/7. Is this card just like good outside of dedicated token decks? Like it is a Naga, so it turns on Predation. We were struggling for good Nagas previously in Demon Hunter. How are we feeling about Snakebite?
I mean, it seems okay in like a tokeny deck. I don't like, you need a certain number of cards that are going to make this worthwhile. Or a certain number of cards that like spawn minions in order to make this worthwhile. So I don't think I would be running it outside of most like token based decks, but it is a good addition there.
I can probably see it in the Outcast DH because I'm assuming that, I guess, well, it's very tempting to run just the 4 rush minions. We might be looking at 6, just so, you know, the second copy isn't like always dead. And Snakebite being 1 mana, that could be quite good. So, especially if when you pair it with other rush cards like Fierce Outsider, right? Like that's an easy way to get this kind of very big very quickly. And it could just be like a 4/4 or 5/5 on turn 4 for 1 mana. It does also, like, if you, like Meowth said, like, maybe it's really hard to fit everything in Outcast DH now, but if you are looking at the Naga stuff, then, you know, being another predation activator is really great. And yeah, like, if you do dedicate a deck being, like, to being very token heavy, then this gets quite silly. So, like, even just outside the Outcast DH, there might actually just be something else that we can do in Demon Hunter as well.
Yep. All right, let's talk about a legendary that fits perfectly well with that token style deck, and that's Halviria, Dark Raven. We're gonna go with that. 4 mana, 4/3. She has Rush herself. After a friendly Rush minion attacks, give your minions +1 attack, and that is permanent +1 attack. So when you summon 3 1/1s with Rush and you have her on the board, then the first one will attack and it'll give all your minions. I'm assuming it'll also buff the one that is currently attacking.
No, it's after. So
is it after? Never mind. Take that back. But then the next Rush minion will have 2 attack, and the minion after that will have 3. And she has Rush herself, so will also trigger. I don't know. It's hard to imagine what this token Demon Hunter deck looks like because we've never really seen it. But I can imagine this deck. I guess I'll point to you, Roffle. Does this fit in that deck?
Initially I thought no, but then I reread the card, and it seems like it can get out of control pretty quickly because you're running a lot of like the Illidari summoning things, like, and then I don't know. It's kind of hard to set up a 4-mana turn, to be honest. So that's like the biggest issue is like its mana cost. But I don't know. It's a more expensive Rokara a lot of times, and Rokara is a decent card.
yeah, I mean, there's like not a ton of super insane rush cards that you can like build around completely. You like, some of the difficulty as well is the fact that your best rush token generator is Feldori Warband. So I mean, if you do want to go into like a spell token, like you put this in the weapon, and maybe that kind of works. So I guess like spell rush Demon Hunter is maybe what we're leaning towards, but then we don't get the snake bite, so it's like it's kind of like a mishmash where things don't seem to be super cleanly working together. But yeah, it is like a front-loaded Rakara, but I was kind of like doing the math. It doesn't really push as much damage as you think. When you look at the card text, I think you feel like on a big board it's gonna be pushing like so much, but you actually like count it up, and it's sometimes more like 6 rather than like 15 or something.
Yeah, because of the way that you have to order your attacks, it's not quite like a Savage or a Bloodlust.
And sometimes,
then,
like, if the 4/3 doesn't value trade, then like it just can't get the buff on all the other minions either.
right. Yeah, and a lot of times your rush minions are 1/1, so it's not like the fact that the buff is persistent really is going to make a big difference.
Yeah. All right, you guys are talking me down off this card, but I don't know. It does seem like Demon Hunter got a lot of cool stuff, right? At least a couple of build-arounds for sure. Even to the legendaries might not be it. All right, let's talk about Druid. Let's start with the 2 that were revealed today. Let's kind of talk about them in tandem with each other. Let's talk about Free Spirit and Groovy Cat, because there's nothing hippies are known more for than just hitting people in the face, because that's what Druid seems to be doing this set. So Free Spirit is a 1 mana 1/2 undead beast. Battlecry and Death Rattle. Your hero power gains 1 more armor this game. Notably, that'll trigger twice. If you have a Bran or something, it'll trigger more. And then we've got Groovy Cat, 2 mana 2/1 beast, Battlecry and Death Rattle. Your hero power gives your hero 1 more attack this game. So they're kind of leaning into this hero power Druid. Is Lost in the Park? That's rotating, right? Out of standard. Just had to make sure. But yeah, how are we feeling about these two cards together?
I don't know about together, but like Groovy Cat makes even Druid honestly a little bit appealing. Like, get this down, a couple of them maybe. You very quickly turn into Wildfire with Mage. Remember, like when that was a 2-mana card like that. That was kind of nutty. Garrison Commander to really start like ramping up your attacks, and you're basically like an even hunter, right? Like you're just the Wicker Flame. Like there have been times where the deck was bordering on playable before, and I think Groovy Cat could be like a pretty decent inclusion there, as well as another card that was revealed at an even cost as well. So that's where I went immediately.
Yeah, like even Druid is something that I quickly thought about, but I'm just a little bit hesitant because I feel like that deck is probably going to be so dependent on the Groovy Cat, and you don't get to play Peaceful Piper, so that makes me a little sketched out, like how consistently you are drawing it. But yeah, questline Druid is something that it's very very scary. I feel like there could be like a super low curve mill questline Druid or something like that, that always has Twig Sphere on turn 4, and just does this stuff and plays, due process and things like that. And yeah, that makes me feel nauseous.
How do we feel about? Or I guess, do we know? Not how do you feel, but do you know how this works with like Guff? Well, like if 'cause the Guff is technically like a choose one hero power, so would you still get like attack and armor off that?
The numbers will only go up if there is already like an attack and armor value on the text itself, like because Guff doesn't have like get attack or get armor on its hero power, then it won't do anything. For other hero powers that do say that, it will improve them. So I believe it will improve Malfurion. I think. But it won't improve Guff. That part I know. I know it won't improve Guff, but I think it will improve Malfurion.
And should improve like the Baku upgraded hero power as well.
Yeah.
All right, so we're doing Odd Druid, Even Druid, Questline Druid. Oh, baby. All right. Let's talk about the card that Rolf kind of alluded to earlier. Let's spread the word about this card. It is called Spread the Word. 4-mana spell. Draw 2 cards. Cost 1 less for each attack your hero has. 0 mana draw 2. In any class, in any situation. Seems like a good card, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, this goes in even Druid, but it also just shoves right into any questline Druid in the future. And so, like, whether it's the Hyper Mill one or like the heavily spell-based one that we've seen, pretty frequently, you just shove this in.
Kind of at the point where I feel like Druid might just always want to be a questline deck at this stage, which is kind of something that you've seen a little bit in Standard, where Standard like questline Druid has sort of like evolved into like adopting this big ramp pack with Astalor and Ubercon, and it's kind of like the default thing to do. And I'm kind of thinking like maybe that's just what control Druids is doing wild. Like whether you are playing Cthulhu, maybe if you're playing Cthulhu, you just play questline anyway. Because between like Rake and some of these payoffs that you're getting, it feels like it's really not costing you very much in terms of the deck building, and the payoffs are just getting so insane. Like the questline by itself is like 1 mana, draw a card, gain like 10 armor or something. And so if you start playing things like Rake and just like spread the word and this new like attack card and things like that, like it just sort of becomes very hard to ignore. Like why would you not play this?
Yeah, it seems like the enablers for the quest are also just like standalone great cards, right? Which
yeah.
All right, so lots of really really good stuff, and then let's wrap up Druid with a little bit of a clunker, I think, and that is Zoc Fog Snout, 7 mana 6/6 Quillbore, Battlecry, summon 2/1/1 Quillbore with Taunt, improved by your hero attack and armor gained this turn. So if you just have like default hero power, it'll become a 7 mana 6/6 that summons 2 3/3s with Taunt because you've gained 1 attack and 1 armor, is how I believe that this will go. And then any improvements you make, I don't know, maybe I've kind of talked myself into it. Like, is this card actually like, it can scale super super fast if you're like dedicated to the deck?
I know what I want to see. I know what I want to see with this card. I want to see someone do the line cracker combo and then play this and then have a 2,500 taunt.
All right. Challenge
That seems funny.
accepted.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
All right, outside of that Roffle video that's coming day one, other than that, do we like the card? It seems, I don't know, I kind of talked myself into it. I thought it was kind of trash, but then I realized it was attack and armor. It's not super hard to scale, right?
Yeah, it seems like it's a big number of stats, but does it do both numbers scale, or does like armor scale health and attack scales attack?
Yeah, it's what you said there. So attack, and then armor, health.
Oh,
so,
wait. So then it becomes a 2/2, not a 3. Never mind. I talked myself back out of it. Yep. Yeah. Not super hard.
I mean, Odd Druid's never going to be a deck, but like Odd N'Zoth Druid, you get a Quillbore out of it. You can run like Hadronox in that type of deck as well. But so it would be very easy to get this online. It's just, is that worth building around? Probably not.
Feel about it, just like, I don't know. Not necessarily Reno Druid, but something like a slow Druid like that, where if you are playing Guff and stuff, you just do something silly like Solar double branching. Play this. Like if you've ramped up and things like that, you get like a pair of 24 health taunts. Like, does that do anything for you? I mean, it's a lot of stats.
2 125 taunts definitely will not end the game anytime soon. So I don't know.
No, well, they do against aggro though. They buy you enough time to get to whatever else you
or even if you're just branching innovate this out, right? Like if you don't even have the Guff or you buy her or something, then you get 2 12 health taunts. Like that. It's a lot of health. It's a lot of taunt.
I don't know, you're not going to talk me back into this card after we've gone on this roller coaster.
Yeah, I'm not actually in on this either. I just thought I'd throw it out there.
No, I'm playing this card. I mean, it might be worth a look in Arena Druid. It's like a mega, like spreading plague.
Yeah, and then you're gonna get hit with the newly buffed 4-mana Black Knight, and you're gonna feel really bad about everything.
Well, you have the backup Quillbore. It summons 2. So
yeah. All right, fair. You're not wrong. All right, let's move into Hunter cards here. We have also not seen any Hunter cards. We've got 8 to talk about. Let's start with 2 really interesting spells. Bunch of Bananas and Barrel of Monkeys. So Bunch of Bananas is give a minion +1/+1. 3 bananas left. It's kind of like an echo card where like you'll play it and then it'll come back to your hand 3 times, right? So you get kind of, I think, 4 copies of a spell for 1 is I believe how this works. And then Barrel of Monkeys works the same way. It's a 2-mana spell. Summon a 1/4 monkey with taunt, and then 3 monkeys left.
How many copies did you say you get? Because I think you only get like 3 total activations with this, not like 3 extra bananas. I think.
So instead of 4, you get 3.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that makes it slightly worse than I was thinking, but it's still 3 for 1 value on both of these cards. Yeah.
I'm thinking Barrel of Monkeys looks a little bit more appealing to me than Bunch of Bananas, but like, what was the most recent Paladin card? The Seal of
Blood?
Seal of Blood. That was 3 mana, give +3/+3, and
Div Shield.
Divine Shield, right? The Divine Shield is really impactful. This is almost that, right? Like Bunch of Bananas. That's a lot of stats to give 1 minion on turn 3. It's you can pace it out over multiple turns as well. Like, it's an interesting card. I think they both are. They just serve different purposes, and I don't know, worth a look.
I'm actually much higher on bananas than Barrel. I look at Barrel and I'm just looking at like a pack mule, but it's not a beast, and that's the only reason you play pack mule. So like, I'm just not that impressed by Barrel. Bunch of Bananas is kind of like a buffed extra arms, like the buffed version. You get 1 less stat for 1 less mana, but it's more flexible as well. It works really well with a lot of these like spell like dependent cards. A lot of the Nagas in particular, right? Like whether we're talking about Vicious, the 1/3 or the Krakenbane, like it works really well with Krakenbane. It's like a instant card activated by itself like that. So as Shara, like it just kind of like one card activates that. So there's kind of some cute stuff you can do with it. I really like it. It's very flexible. Does it have a home in Wild? Maybe the like Naga Face Hunter is actually good enough. I feel like Face Hunter's been sort of close multiple times in Wild. But it's a very exciting card, I think, for Standard in particular.
Yeah. I was also very high on the bananas. I kind of want to just pivot and talk really quickly about kind of the payoff cards that the reason that you have a bunch of bananas and Barrel of Monkeys. So let's start with the weapon, which is Jungle Jammer. It's a 4-mana 4/2 weapon. Death Rattle, summon a random 1-cost beast, cast spells while equipped to improve. So it'll improve the cost of the beast that you get. And so when you play Jungle Jammer, and then the next turn you play like 3 bunch of bananas and a Barrel of Monkeys, then you summon a 5-cost beast. When you swing the weapon. And then I also just kind of alongside of it, let's go ahead and talk about Aerosmith, which is a 2-mana 2/3 Naga. After you cast a spell, deal 1 damage to the lowest health enemy, so whether that's minions or the opponent's face. So these are currently 2 of the payoffs that we've seen for casting a bunch of spells on Hunter. I think Lock and Load is also technically still in the standard set, but in Wild we have Zul'jin, right? You cast all the Barrel of Monkeys and all the bunch of bananas, and I assume get more copies back too if you cast Zul'jin, but.
Oh man, I got bigger plans for Zul'jin from the set. Don't worry.
That's fair.
Same. Also, that's the first time I've heard Aerosmith's name said aloud, and that's good. Yeah, Aerosmith could, find a place with a bunch of bananas in that, Naga Face Hunter. Goes really well with like a vicious, Slither Spear or whatever. Jungle Jammer, I'm a little bit less high on just because like there's some really big woofs in Wild, and like a card that's that reliant on you having and playing other cards always feels a little bit sketchy to me. Like at what point are you happy with the outcome of the card you get off of this? I'm not really sure.
I mean, like, if you probably get a 3-drop, it's comparable to, like, playing this in a Dread Corsair, sort of. A slower version, right? Where it doesn't come down immediately, but it's still, like, free tempo. Like, if you're picking up, like, 0-mana 3/3s and up, that's, like, pretty solid. So, yeah, just, like, that Face Hunter deck that kind of talked about. The fact that you can tutor the bananas with Trinket is also nice. So it means that it's probably like a lot more consistent being able to get like a bigger beast off this. I don't know. It goes face. It's summoned stuff. It's like a 1-mana discounted Hammer Twilight. And I remember everyone thinking Hammer of Twilight was broken before that was released.
True.
So this one has to be broken as well.
Yep. Where are we at now on Hammer of Twilight? That's the real question.
Yeah. Next question.
Yeah. Unimportant.
Also, just to remind everybody what Trinket is, that's the 1-mana 1/1 that draws you a 1-cost spell from the latest mini set. Might not know it because it's a Hunter card, but yeah. All right, let's talk about some of the kind of the other big package here for Hunter. Let's talk about Big Beast Hunter. Big Dreams, 5-mana spell. Summon the highest cost beast from your hand. It goes dormant for 2 turns.
That doesn't feel great, right? Going dormant for 2 turns, 5-mana pass. It's a Skull of the Minari, but like slower somehow. I do not feel good about this card. There are better ways, or there needs to be better ways to cheat out big minions in Wild.
I'm frantically looking to the collection, and I'm like, I don't see it, dude. I don't see it.
As somebody who has played a lot of Big Beast Hunter, this is not the card that saves it.
All right, maybe it's Mr. Mukla. This is a 6-mana legendary beast, 10/10 with Rush. Battlecry, fill your opponent's hand with bananas. That is a 6-mana 10/10 with Rush. That also makes your opponent overdraw a card, so they automatically lose the game. So I've been told. Yeah.
That's a big monkey.
So strong for only 6 mana?
Right. Surely this just gets played everywhere and there's no downside to it at all.
I kind of like it.
I do too. I don't.
Yeah.
No, I will be playing this card. Just like if you're not paying it, or if you're not getting its battle cry active, like it's also pretty good. There are ways to cheat out minions in wild. It also costs 3 mana off if you have Vandar active. Like, this like Barrel of Monkeys also can buy you time to get to silly nonsense like this as well.
It's perfectly curving with Harpoon Gun. 4 mana 10/10 battle cry. The thingy just comes down rush. Hell yeah.
Wow.
No,
Massive
Yeah.
power creep on the 4 mana 7/7.
Yeah, I don't know if it makes it into Beast Hunter in Wild. He's so big and so many stats though. It's just like, oh my god.
Yeah, but it gives the opponent a lot of stats too.
Yeah, but who wants to pay mana for bananas?
Radiant
Except for us, who
Elemental
apparently
exists.
intentionally putting bananas in our deck.
Right.
Right.
And any priest deck with Radiant Elemental, which is going to be, which is going to exist thanks to the ogre heal that we
I mean,
talked about last week.
you're playing Harpoon Guns and Mukla, right? So they're not going to have any minions to play the bananas on, so it'll be fine. And if they have to like actually play a minion from hand to put all the bananas on, then you could hit face with the 10. Like, I could unironically I could see it like being good.
You play the Tavish for emergency maneuvers, and then you play this, and then what are they gonna do? If they kill it, then bam, Tundra Rhino, 22 right to the head.
Boom.
All
right, we found it. We broke
new
it.
New rule. Forget Savannah Highmane. If Mr. Mukla goes face, you win that game.
Now that I believe.
All right, let's talk about another big beast. Let's talk about Banjo-Sar. Soar? It's a 10 mana 5/6.
The art is unbelievable.
The art is great. Yeah, I was distracted while I was trying to figure out how to pronounce the name. It's a 10 mana 5/6 beast with rush. But whenever this attacks, whenever it attacks, draw a beast and gain its stats. So that ideally is not going to be a 10 mana 5/6. It's going to be like a 10 mana 10 something that's also getting to attack with rush. At least 10. At least 10.
It's a 10 mana 15/16. I don't know what you're talking about. It hits Mr. Mukla every time.
But what if you're running Ultrasaur in your deck? Unironically, is this an Ultrasaur deck?
Nah, it hits Mr. Mukla every time, even if you're running Ultrasaur.
That's fair. All right, Big Beast Hunter. Is this finally one of the pieces that puts it all together for the deck?
I mean, it's probably better for the deck than Big Dream, but that doesn't that doesn't
very
mean
high
it's
bar.
good. I don't care. I'm gonna be playing this card. This is one of my favorite cards of the expansion, far and away, just because of the effect, the battle cry, or the artwork on it, the synergy with Mukla. Like it's the perfect card.
Okay, Corb, you mentioned earlier that you had big plans for Zul'jin. Is this it? Is this the card? We've got a 10 mana legendary spell called Stranglethorn Heart. It is a tradable spell that resurrects all friendly beasts that cost 5 or more.
This is the card, Meowth. No, but maybe not Zul'jin, but man, I am huffing the copium. I'm thinking Beast Hunter, man. I think we can maybe just throw this in there. And look, I know 10 mana in Wild is like 10 mana in Wild, but I mean, with Shadehound, Hydrolodon, Tundra Rhino, it just ends the game. Like, you just play this and it's over. It's infinite damage for infinite mana. But it's tradable, so it's fine. It's fine. It's like a one-card deck building thing where you have to make no adjustments to your deck list in Beast Hunter, none at all, and all of a sudden you just win against Reno Priest like every time. How can we not play this?
Because it's 10 mana.
Tradable. Yeah. It has tradable. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I learned earlier this week, in fact, or maybe it was last week, that tradable is really good at thinning your deck too. So, it makes it so that you're more likely to draw into the good cards, even if you're running it, because it thins your deck out so much.
Because you draw this, and then you no longer have bad cards in your deck. Yeah.
Honestly, the Shadehound shenanigans sounds pretty sweet with it. Like, that's disgusting with a Tundra.
So much damage.
Like, you do not lose against control decks anymore. Like that could. There aren't control decks in the format, but like, we don't know the true outcome of the Wild Summit. Maybe one day this is the thing.
Well, I mean, like the Reno Priest matchup Like,
Yeah, they don't kill
what
you
the-
before turn 10 most of the time, right? No, I'm being sincere.
like Reno Priest will or the Hunter
Yeah.
will?
No, Reno Priest. Like,
I don't think so.
you
I think
got a
that
decent
matchup
chance.
that matchup can get grindy, and
Yeah.
like especially when you know that you have the ability to res this, it means you can be like a lot more aggressive with your Shade Hounds and like make them there's a lot more like board tension, knowing that you can just like bring it all back and kill them. I don't know, it's so much damage. Like
It
for
is.
one card to just like solo slow matchups, like I'm so tempted by this.
It's worth a look at least, right?
Yeah, maybe. How about its intended purpose though in Big Beast Hunter?
I mean, yeah, obviously
no,
you play it
no.
there, but like that deck sucks. so, so what do you want to say about it? Yeah, it's the perfect card for a deck that's terrible. It doesn't change the fact that the deck.
It's a good card in that deck, and then we get Banjosaur and Mr. Mukla in that deck too. Like, yeah.
No, I know it's
mean,
great. It's great,
yeah.
but like you're dead. like, even against Reno Priest, because you haven't been applying enough pressure to like keep them on the back foot. It's just unfortunately not a good deck, and I'm going to play it because it brings back my Banjosaur, and all I want is more Banjosaurs. But like, you run into this really awkward issue where, in order to like get Banjosaur value to begin with, you need to run a lot of beasts that are like high cost, and the same thing applies to like a lot of your other like minion cheats. And then in order to do that, you're just kind of passing the early turns, so you don't ever make it to the point where you get to survive to play those big beasts, and then you just die with the Stranglethorn Heart in your hand.
I do love. I would say like I love the decision to put tradable on this. Like it feels like such a nice way to make a card that would otherwise be completely unplayable, like playable. And it's just satisfying, right? Like having these big value bombs and like win conditions, not making them sit in your hand for 10 turns as you just frustratingly wait and wait and wait while it does nothing and then you die. Like giving it tradable, I think it's great and something that I hope that we keep seeing in the future for these like big, huge payoffs.
Fully agree. It also makes Spiteful feel a lot better.
Oh, Spiteful Hunter?
Yeah.
Whoo, it's going to be good.
Oh yeah. Spiteful Beast Hunter. Just you wait.
You could run Guardian Animals in that deck, summon some 5-drops for you to also res off of this as well. So it's all
10
coming
drops
together.
only Meowth. Maximum payoff with the
Yeah.
Spiteful.
You're going to run out of beasts for your Banjosaur to draw, and then it's just going to be a 5/6. Come on, guys. Come on.
Sounds like coward stock to me.
I mean, it is. You're not wrong. Let's talk about the 2 mage cards that we've seen so far. I really don't want to talk about them because both of them make me very sad. Infinitize the Maxitude. What a name. It is a 2-mana legendary spell that says discover a spell. Finale. Return this to your hand at the end of turn.
Well, I mean, to be fair, if you use all of your mana to infinitize the Maxitude, you don't really have mana left over to cast another Infinitize the Maxitude, you know? So, like, because of the finale, you've already spent your mana, so it's not like you're going to be playing this multiple times per turn. All that said, this card sucks. Like, what are you going to do? Well, what are you going to do with this? There's so many bad mage spells. How many times do you need to get Glacial Mysteries before you just uninstall Hearthstone and, like, dust this card?
You do get to discover it, though.
Yeah. So you get, like, Glacial Mysteries paired along Frozen Clone and, like, some other garbage spell, and you just cry.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm not worried about playing this multiple times a turn because I'm going to be playing this 0 times a turn. This card actually just made me depressed. when I saw it revealed, I was like, oh.
Good.
Cool art, though. Really sick art.
Yeah, sick art, sick name. I want it to be good because of the name. I want to just say I'm going to play Infinitize the Maxitude next turn. And, like, you just can't because this card sucks.
Like, yeah, even in a non-Pocket Galaxy like Reno Mage, you want to discover the spell early so that you can play the spell this turn. You don't want to do it as your last thing so that you can like hope that you're correct about what the opponent develops next turn, right? Like that. It's a bummer.
Yeah. Also, isn't the what is it? Raid the Sky Temple quest? Isn't the hero power just like 10 times better than this because you get like the discount as well? Like, oof.
Just another example of reverse power creep. Thanks, Blizzard.
Yeah, thanks, Blizzard. All right, DJ Manastorm. He finally reached 10 mana, and now he's an 8/8 with the battle cry. Set the cost of spells in your hand to 0. After you cast one, the others cost 1 more. Alright, what's the sick OTK that we're doing with this that's going to be highlight YouTube clip worthy, because I don't think he's got any sort of competitive viability, but I'm sure there's some... Oh, am I wrong? Yeah?
I mean, Pyroblast into Pyroblast.
That sounds like another Roffle video right there, but I don't know where you're getting the third Pyroblast.
That's too ambitious for me. You just generate it somehow. You're mage. I don't know. You can
You
use the 4-mana.
The Infinitize the Maximus.
No. You play the 4-mana card that adds a copy of 7, 8, 9, 10 mana cards to your hand.
True.
And then you play a DJ Mana Storm.
Yeah. These mage cards make me sad.
Yeah. I mean, I like that they're bringing back Mana Millhouse as a character, but not the cards. I like DJ Mana Storm, but it's not a good card. I think it's a fun card.
Yeah, I mean, completely horrific and wild. I also think it's horrific and standard for what it's worth, but man, it's like the extra mile of bad in wild.
Yeah. All right, but we still have 8 mage cards, right? So totally there's some hope for some playable cards, right?
Here we go.
Yeah.
Any day now.
All right, let's move into Paladin here. Let's start with Spotlight. So it's a 2-mana holy tradable spell. Convert a friendly Divine Shield into a 5/5 elemental. So basically, it'll remove the Divine Shield from, I guess, either your face, if you've played the legendary spell, or a minion, and it turns it into a 5/5. 2-mana 5/5 if you play a 1-mana Divine Shield. 2-mana 5/5 good? Question mark?
Yeah, but like the requirement is pretty hefty, right? It pairs nicely with Starlight Groove. It has tradable, and tradable, as we know, thins your deck, so that's helpful. I think it's like, I don't know, if you're playing Starlight Groove, you're probably just playing this, and I think that's about it. I don't know if you're necessarily wanting to play this in like your Libram Paladin or anything like that, but maybe in like a Pure Paladin as well, because it like gives you another elemental. You can think about maybe there's another payoff in there somewhere, but in wild, it could be good with if you're running a high enough density of Divine Shields. You probably can't run it in like a Mech Paladin where you do generate a lot of Divine Shields, just because you don't want that many spells. But maybe in like Arena Paladin.
Yeah, well, like I'm only thinking aggro Paladin really, with Sanguine Soldier and Righteous Protector, and like maybe you do like Argent Squire, like, and the idea is just that on 1 to 5/5 on 2. But I don't actually know how good that is. Like, how often Divine Shields stick? Like, if you go second, it's just like,
it's GG if you go second is the real issue with it.
Yeah, like playing against Pirates or Shaman, I don't know, because you end up paying like 3 mana for a 1/1 and a 5/5, and that's like not that amazing, really. Like, even if it comes out turn 2, so I don't know. Like, for me, this is a tricky card to evaluate. I'm assuming that it's not really that great, even in the aggro deck, but it's one of the ones that I'm more unsure about.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's like kind of unplayable if you're going second is like the part that makes it super sketch. All right, we are getting other Divine Shield support though. We've got Funkfin, great name, 3-mana 2/2 Murloc that has Divine Shield. Your minions with Divine Shield have +2 attack. So you're going wide with bubbles, and then you play this, and it's Bloodlust on a stick or Savage Warrior on a stick for 3 mana. I mean, if you are playing a dedicated Bubble Paladin deck, I think this card is good. Is it good enough for just aggro Paladin, or is it good enough to build around?
I mean, Corb was barely able to list 3 worthwhile Divine Shield minions to run in that deck. And as somebody who has played Bubble Paladin, let me tell you, that's not a deck that's fun to play. But it's it's a cool card. It's just not probably like up to snuff.
Fine. It is kind of a little bit awkward where like some of your best Call to Arms type cards, like the Web Lord and Crab Rider, obviously doesn't really work with. And you're looking at more like a Noyatron and Shielded Minibot, and I just don't know if this is really payoff enough to kind of, because that's a lot of that's a lot of ones and twos, and I don't think we really want that many ones and twos. And
what about like an aggressive Purator Paladin, where you're just playing a low curve minion type, so the Purator just draws you like 5. You use Call to Arms to draw a bunch of cards as well, and a lot of those like McGurgle, Minibot do have some Divine Shields associated with them. Maybe even like a Crystal Lion is that a beast?
I would hope
maybe
so.
maybe that's worth a look. So I think that's kind of where this wants to be in something aggressive, and the fact that you could theoretically fetch it off of a Purator or something like that could make it a little bit more appealing.
How many of the like dude synergy cards do we have that give Divine Shields? Like I know we have the legendary. Is there anything outside of that? Because like between Crystal Lion, the legendary, if we like consistently give our dudes bubbles, I mean this card seems pretty good there.
The thing with that though is that you already have so many ways to get payoffs with your dudes that are more effective than this. That's like just play a War Rider or whatever.
All right, let's talk about the last of the Divine Shield payoffs here in Jitterbug. 4 mana 4/3 beast that has Divine Shield. After a friendly character loses Divine Shield, draw a card. So that's obviously your hero and your minions as well. Are we kind of lumping this in the same boat as Funkfin, where like they're strong cards, but you don't really have like the supporting pieces to kind of make it a thing yet?
Yeah, and I don't even know how, like, we've seen similar draw engines that just are too slow for the wild format is really what it comes down to. When you get into turn 4, a lot of times your minions have already lost their Divine Shield, right? They've been attacking for 3 turns, so, like, what Divine Shields are you expecting to get you off of this? I don't know.
Yeah, fairly situational, expensive draw engine. Upside good, but like wild format fast. I don't know. Ultimately, these are very paladin cards, and they don't excite me because they're very paladin cards.
All right.
Yeah, they just play a little too fair.
Yeah. How about big paladin though? Does this excite you? We got some big paladin support. Let's talk about the least exciting one maybe. In Kangor Dancing King, 5 mana 3/3 with lifesteal. Death Rattle. Swap this with a minion in your hand and give it lifesteal. It is a 5 mana repeatable Void Caller.
Yeah, and it does have lifesteal to make up for the fact that you just took like 16 on turn 5. So like, so that helps a little bit. I think it's kind of reasonable. Like it's not terrible off of a duel. But I don't think like Big Paladin is quite there yet or even close necessarily. So I don't know that this is the card that like moves it across the finish line.
I'll let you guys cook on the big paladin cards. I think I'm gonna just get out of the kitchen on this one.
That's probably wise.
Yeah. All right. Well, we had repeatable Void Caller. We've got Possess Lackey now and Lead Dancer, but it is 6 mana. 6 mana 4/2. Death Rattle, summon a minion from your deck with less attack than this minion. I mean, Possess Lackey doesn't see play. There's no shot that I think this sees any play. But let's talk about the big thing that you want to cheat out. Annoy a Troop. 9 mana 3/6 mech. Taunt, Divine Shield. Death Rattle, summon 3 1/2 mechs with Taunt and Divine Shield. It's just like better Void Lord. It's just you aren't cheating this out on turn 4, and yeah, Void Lord on turn 4 is not even good enough. I feel like a lot of the times nowadays. So
yeah, we're a long ways from Void Lord ending games.
Yeah. All right. Well, Paladin. Yeah. All right.
Paladin did its best.
Unfortunately, its best is not good enough. All right, let's talk about Priest. Let's start with the weapon. Idol's Adoration. It's a 1 mana 0/2. Your hero power costs 0. After you use it, lose 1 durability. So kind of like Tour Guide on a stick. like an actual stick, like it's a weapon. Does this ever make the the cut in like an aggro Shadow Priest instead of something like the needle?
Maybe it gives your deckhand charge, right?
I mean, so this is the needle.
Yeah.
This gives you the free 2 hero powers, I guess, is the reason, right? It's a lot worse
Right,
against
so
pirates, but
yeah, it gives you more damage but less like board resilience, right? Because it does 4 damage. The needle does 3, or yeah. So maybe, I don't know. It depends on like what matchups you're trying to beat and what matchups you're encountering a lot.
Unsure. I'm probably leaning towards not good enough, just because there are probably games and situations where this is like, we're probably just gonna float and hero power anyway, or it doesn't really make that much of a difference having the extra mana, just because like you can't really like take advantage of it that hard. I don't know. Like we've got Tour Guide. It's kind of cheating 3 mana, sorta. A lot of mana cheating, but I don't know. I just don't. It's such a bad like mid to late game top deck as well. It's just doing like nothing outside the first maybe 2 to 3 turns max, and so I don't know.
yeah, you also get a lot less void touch attendant value than you would off of something like needle, right? Because if you have yeah, I don't know. That was the only place I could see this weapon though, so I was just wanted to float that out there.
Yeah, I would never think about it replacing needle, but yeah, I just
really.
don't. I think it's probably good enough to replace anything else, really.
Yeah. All right. I will tell you, it's also good in Odd Priest if you're engine and you're like the one person playing the deck. All right. Next up, we have Dreamboat. It's a 2-mana 1/2 Naga. Battle Cry. Restore 3 health to all other friendly minions. Give +1/+1 for each one overhealed. So it's fan club on a minion. That also gains stats. Ogre Priest ? I mean, just gonna put it out there. Like all these new cards we see, I keep throwing it in that thing because I don't know what's good enough to see play in that deck and what's not. So
Yeah, that's probably the only place you would really want to consider it, right? Is that, I don't know, tempo-y overheal deck, but like even then it feels pretty bad, right? Like you have to have a like it's bloodlust, but like somehow worse because you have to have a board lead in order to play it. But then if you have a board lead, it doesn't even do anything for, like, it doesn't offer you more lethality. It just like it next turn maybe. So yeah, it seems pretty bad.
So bad, so bad.
all right, so we move into Rogue here. Let's start with the new Shadow Step. It's a 1-mana shadow spell. Return a friendly minion to your hand. Summon a dancer with its stats and rush. So I think it's like a little bit worse than what we want Shadow Step to do in Wild, right? In terms of like mana cheating and things like that. But it does give you stats and it gives you rush to replay Battle Cries. Yay, nay.
I think the only like reasonable target that I can think of that I'd want to play this on is Edwin. And it's very good on Edwin a lot of times. But like, I don't know, most other cards, like the fact that if you're doing a low cost card, you're getting low value off of it. If you're bouncing a high cost card, then you have a high cost card that's been added back to your hand. So like you have a lot of ground to make up in terms of tempo there. So like the only card I could think of that made this seem worthwhile was exactly Edwin Van Cleave.
The other one that comes to mind for me is Arcane Giant. Because you're not paying anything to replay it, hopefully. But apart from that, don't know. It could. How good is it with something like Stenographer? Like Sten makes a value trade, you bounce it, you play it again.
Yeah, I mean that's good. It's no Arcane Giant, but you're probably playing those in the same deck, right? Like,
yeah. I don't know. Stenographer type thing, I'm not sure about. Obviously, like Arcane Giant's like the best possible situation, like that style of Miracle deck. Just unsure whether like Arcane Giants are really worth it. Sometimes dude, those cards are expensive sometimes. Like it's
Right.
tough to get them out by like turn 4.
Yeah, if you haven't played like 6 or 7 like coin mans,
Yeah.
you're really just not getting the Arcane Giant down ever.
Yeah, I'm gonna defer to Corp for all miracle based, conclusions. So whatever he says about breakdance, we're just gonna go with it. I think is sort of thing for Miracle Rogue. All right, next up we're getting some Kingsbane support ? I don't really know how to think about these, but they gave your weapon attack, so I'm kind of down. You have Harmonic Hip Hop, which is a 2-mana shadow spell. Deal 1 damage, give your weapon +3 attack. It'll also swap, where it'll deal 3 damage and give your weapon +1 attack. So it swaps each turn. I don't know. It's +3 attack on your Kingsbane. You don't need Tinker's Oil anymore. You could just do this for half the mana.
Oil is pretty expensive. And then like I don't know, as we saw with like Ghostly Strike, the 1 damage isn't irrelevant for like cleaning up the board, especially against Pirate Rogue, which is a bad matchup. You can also just use it to kill a cannon and be fine with it. So yeah, probably a fine card in Kingsbane Rogue, which is like frequently carrying some pretty low quality cards a lot of time. Like I don't think it really needs Paralytic Poison most of the time. Like Oil is, like you said, pretty expensive, but does do a lot of damage. So depending on how you're building the deck, this is definitely at least worth a look.
Yeah, I think it's actually like this pretty broken in Kingsbane, like huge payoff. In terms of the curve, tiny bit. I don't know. Like hopefully you can play around it. Where it's like if you go Kingsbane on 1 and this is in your opening hand, then it'll flip and you can't really play it. But a lot of the time you're playing a tutor effect on turns like 2 or something, like with Shiny Finder, which means that the hip hop will go back to the plus attack buff. So hopefully like if you're playing Kingsbane on 3, that doesn't really matter. But yeah, like super broken card in that deck, I think, where it activates Dreads by itself, which is something that like Deadly Poison doesn't do and stuff. The damage cleanup is really nice as well, like buffing weapon and being able to like trade off. And yeah, like Kingsbane can just use any cheap buff possible just because it scales. Like it just gets bigger and bigger and just like matters more and more as the game goes on. So all of a sudden, instead of having like a 6 or 7 attack weapon on turns 5, 6, all of a sudden we're looking at like a 9, a 10 attack weapon. That's a big difference. So I think this could definitely help bring the deck back. And it can be a viable counter, something like Shadowwalk Shaman, which right now doesn't really have a ton of really viable counters, like decks that can just go over the top like that. So there's definitely like I think a place for it, and yeah, just busted card. Probably like a touch, but like not that much worse, but like worse than pre-nerf Nitro Boost.
Mm-hmm.
But like a tier below, like it's really good.
Yeah. All right. The other Kingsbane Rogue card here is Mic Drop. 3 mana, draw 2, Finale, give your weapon +2 attack. So I think this is definitely a little bit worse than the Harmonic Hip Hop, because you need to activate the Finale, unfortunately, in order to get the proc for the weapon attack. You also are running like Cutting Class, and we still have Secret Passage in Wild, so I'm a lot less confident on this one than I am the Harmonic Hip Hop, but it's kind of in that same vein of like it probably goes in Kingsbane Rogue and not much else.
Yeah, and it maybe makes you like not as dependent or even considerate of like a Silverleaf Poison to draw cards at that point, because it doesn't do damage, and this sort of does. The problem is, yes, the Finale, but not just like manipulating your mana in a way such that the Finale goes off, but like if you're spending your last bit of mana to draw cards, you're not likely to be able to play those cards that you drew, so it kind of like stalls out your turn. That's not really when you want to play card draw. This is again kind of the issue with that we saw with the Mage spell, is that like using it to activate, or using card draw to activate Finale is like at odds with when you want to be drawing cards in a turn. So that said, could just be worth the payoff. We'll have to see if it plays nice in the deck, but it does the things that Kingsbane wants to do. It draws cards and it adds attack to your weapon.
Yeah, assuming that's good enough, but it'll probably be pretty close. 3 mana is a lot of mana. But like I said, any attack buff, like you just take anything you can get in that deck and you just shove it in and hope for the best.
Yeah, these are decks. The Kingsbane does run prep, right? So it does get a little bit easier potentially when you have the prep as well. All right, let's talk about maybe a couple of boring cards here. Let's talk about some cards that are going to go in that kind of tempo combo as the mechanic, not the archetype rogue. I feel like I'm going to have to keep making that distinction, which is a little bit annoying. We have Rhyme Spinner, 3 mana, 1/3 with Rush, combo, gain +1/+1 for each other combo card you've played this game. So it does count everything that you've played, but when you want to play it on turn 3, I'm not seeing that it's going to be much more than like a 3/5 with Rush, maybe.
Yeah, it pairs nicely with Record Scratcher, though, I guess would be the thing. If you get like a way to another, like an Outcast Demon Hunter style payoff where either you get some cost reduction for playing your combo cards, or you get something that, you know, is Walloper type. This is maybe the closest, but it's probably, you know, still a little bit too expensive and too late coming out compared to Walloper for it to be like something worth building around as a payoff. But like, if the deck is going to be good, I imagine this probably plays a role. It just doesn't seem like it will right now.
It's kind of broken. Like it gets so fat so fast. Like 3 combo cards, and it's a, you know, like a 4/6 for 3 with Rush. That's already pretty good. And it's a card as well that just scales so hard. Like if you're playing against Reno Priest, can you imagine like having this, like just top decking this on 7 or something? Like it's probably just like insane, like a 10/12 or something.
Right. It's a 10/12. It trades over the opponent's behemoth and then dies to Anduin on the next turn.
Well, it's fine. You know, yeah, don't worry about that part. But no, I don't know. It's massive. So I think like having more threat density in that deck is good. And I just don't think it's that hard to get it cheap, to get it big. And yeah, I don't know. This seems good to me.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that in Wild, not like I don't think that Foxy got rotated into Standard. So we still have stuff like Foxy, Field Contact, Swindle. We have all the 1 minute cantrips that are combo as well. So I could unironically see kind of like a tempo combo rogue being a thing potentially, because we have access to cards that Standard doesn't. Speaking of that archetype, we have Disc Jockey. It's a 2 mana 4/1 Mech Beast combo. Add a random combo card to your hand. I think the most important thing to note here is that this is supposed to be Octobot, right? But like the reverse side of them. So this like essentially 100% confirms that Octobot going back to 2, right?
Right. Yeah, that's
so.
the important thing I get out of this card.
Let's talk about the legendary. Let's talk about MC Blingtron. 5 mana 3/4 Mech. Battle Cry. Both players equip 1/2 microphones. So kind of keeping that original Blingtron flavor. But your opponent increases all damage they take by 1. And so that's from all sources, whether it's their hero power, if they're a warlock, or your minions hitting them, or your weapons. So it's like a permanent. I'm assuming it's a permanent void touched attendant, right? Like if they kill the Blingtron, does that damage increase go away?
The weapon has it, not the minion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, so then they only take increased damage while your opponent has the microphone equipped.
Right.
Yep.
So they either break it with a weapon or break it by swinging over 2 turns. So
how do you guys feel? It's void touched, top end in your pirate row ?
It's a 5 mana void touched. It's really
it's
bad.
For 2 turns.
It's really bad. It's really bad.
the thing that makes void, yeah. 5
Like
mana is a lot.
It's insanely bad.
Poor Blingtron. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the one that has a lot of people freaking out. Let's talk about Bounce Around featuring Garona. 3 mana legendary spell. Return all friendly minions to your hand. They cost 1 this turn. All right, so Tenmu on steroids, Shadow Step on steroids, however you want to kind of make the comparison, right? It bounces everything to your hand, and they all cost 1. So I'm assuming there's some stupid stuff we can do with like scabs and Tenwu. Now that Pillager's gone, I don't know what the payoff is necessarily. Maybe you're doing like the Alexstrasza stuff, like the new Alexstrasza that deals 8. But I don't know. It's a powerful effect, but are people right in you think in freaking out about this card?
No,
Okay,
I
I
don't
thought I
think
was
so.
crazy. My God, I did not understand why we have this card. It's Daring Escape, and nobody plays it like with like, this doesn't help Quest Rogue because Daring Escape exists. We have Potion Evolution. We have this card, and like Potion Evolution is a persistent effect too, and nobody's playing that in Rogue really outside of Pillager, which is now deleted. So like, I don't understand what this is meant to break.
Yeah. It has to be like. I mean, because then the cost 1 this turn, right? You
Right.
do keep the stats, but it's probably like this this is worse than Potion Evolution if you're really looking for that like battle cry and like a like a grindier deck or something. And
Right.
even the combo stuff, like it's probably just worse than Potion as well because you have to like bounce the shark and you have to like actually replay that. Like you don't end up really making back mana or anything. There could be like something that opens up that is about as good as Potion, like in a Shark Scabs deck, but I've kind of like seen some people theorycraft the combos for it, and they're just not fast. Like they're not good, they're not fast. Like you don't really end up doing anything. It's still like a turn 7 type kill. So yeah,
I feel
card
like
bad. Like
yeah,
card seems way overrated.
right. I feel like this is the Scabs cutter butter this set. Like people are freaking out because like I think Fraud came first and Fraud was a good card. Then the people are like, I don't know, in standard especially still super salty about Shadow Step. And I don't know, like this is not the tempo game that Shadow Step is. Like the only thing that I can think of is Astalor, but like Astalor and Rogue with bounce around is still just way too slow. And like the fact that it takes minions off the board, like Grumble didn't see play until Shudderwalk existed, even though it was a pretty high tempo play because it like removes any progress you make on the board, right? This kind of does the same thing, but then doesn't make a 6 or a 7/7.
And Grumble's permanent.
Right.
Yeah, like you
Oh,
get to
true.
keep it as that.
Like, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. This card seems horrible to me on this.
That's okay. Oh my God. I feel like I've been just like gaslit by the Hearthstone Twitter this whole week. I'm just like, I didn't want to say anything because I'm like, what am I missing? I don't understand.
It's me, right?
What is it?
I like.
Yeah,
It must be a me.
if everybody else is freaking out, including other wild creators, then it must just be me.
All right, we're 100% correct here on this podcast. So this card obviously sucks, and there's not going to be another game-breaking rogue combo. You guys heard it here first.
I did not say that. I was fully willing to admit that I was just wrong and crazy. So,
No, for what it's worth, I couldn't figure it out either. But yeah, I did see like multiple people saying, they deleted Pillager just for it to be immediately replaced by another like combo rogue deck, and I was like, looking around, I was like, what's the combo? Are we talking about like
combo? Yeah.
Are we talking about tempo combo rogue? Is that what we're talking about? Like, yeah. I was missing it too. All right, let's talk about Shaman. Last time we talked about Shaman, we had only seen Brass Elemental, and we still haven't seen any other elementals, but we've got a lot of the Overload support cards to talk about, starting with Flow Rider. That's another reference there, I think. 2 mana, 3/2 Naga, Battle Cry. If you're overloaded, discover a spell from your deck. 2 mana, 3/2 draw, or I guess discover a spell from your deck, but you do have to be overloaded. Curves super well after an Ancestral Knowledge. I'm trying.
yeah, I don't know. Like, it depends. You don't, no, you don't want to run minions in your frog deck. Which, if you're overloaded, you want to be a frog deck.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about Jazz Base. 3 mana, 2/2 Death Rattle. Your next spell cost 1 less. Overload while equipped to improve. So I do believe cards like Perpetual Flame will trigger this each instant individually. So there is the potential to get a very, very significant large discount on your Jazz Base. The issue is like, I don't know that we want that in something like Frog Shaman, because that deck plays nothing but cheap spells, and then I'm looking at like the big spells in Shaman, and I don't know if you guys have looked at some of the big spells in Shaman. They all tend to be very, very, very bad. So like I don't know what the payoff for our Jazz base is yet, but I mean it has the potential to do broken things. I just don't think the broken thing is there yet.
No, we need bigger, better big spells for Shaman. Maybe it'll finally make Tidal Wave tolerable, and that's what it does.
I'm looking at criminal lineup. Like that's the biggest, bestest thing, right? But
Right.
Would you even play that over like Spellstone? Because you're like already doing a bunch of the overloading stuff.
Right, you probably. I mean, it depends on when you draw them, or how early you draw them would be the question. So you'd probably just run both if you're trying anything of that sort in a deck. But
yeah, I mean, Perpetual Flame is like the big call out, right? Because it's like such a cheap way to kind of trigger this like crazy.
Is it crazy to play this to cheat out a Eureka?
In like Big Shaman.
Cheat out how?
Well, you play the Jazz base into like Lightning Bloom, Perpetual Flame, and then
just like Perpetual Bloom.
Makes me like swing and play 0 mana Eureka, and then you can like immediately combo Ancestral Spirit or Reincarnate.
Right.
That feels very specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not really saying it. Like it's a card that does, this says mana cheating on it, and it says like unlimited mana cheating. So this can go in that little Blood Bloom pile. Where someday
I don't like that pile.
I know it's a very scary pile. We try not to look at it, make eye contact. But I mean, it'll probably be broken someday. There'll be a wild combo, a wild synergy that just breaks this in half. But I don't think it's there yet. Yeah.
The moment they print a good big spell in Shaman, bam, it's broken. We just need a big spell. So, all right. Some more Overload support cards. We've got Altered Chord, 5 mana nature spell with Lifesteal. Deal 5 damage to a minion. Cost 3 less if you're overloaded. So I'm looking at this as a 2 mana deal 5 with Lifesteal. I compare it to we have the 3 mana
Chaos.
deal 4 with Lifesteal.
Chaos Leech or Tidal Surge.
Tidal Surge. And then we also have the 1 mana deal 8 Torrent if you had played a spell last turn. So those I think are the two like comparisons that I'm making. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like Torrent is just, if you're playing this to kill minions, is Torrent better, I guess? Or is the Tidal Surge just more consistent?
Right.
Nah, Life's still good.
Lifesteal,
very
good.
It's 1 mana less than a Chaos Leech.
Right.
Like
Chaos Leech is not a playable wildcard though.
Yeah, it is if you put it at 2 mana.
Drain Soul is.
Yeah.
All right, fair. Okay, so then are you playing this in Frog Shaman, or are you just playing this in like Reno Shaman? Because you're playing like Ancestral Spirit or Knowledge or whatever it's called.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm probably not playing this anywhere because I don't think like the card's
great. What was the point of this conversation?
Because you're saying that it's not like strong enough of a payoff. I'm like, it is a strong enough payoff. It's just like where you're not playing Overload cards. I just don't see what
I think you do. I think you do play it in Frog Shaman if you're playing Frog Shaman. Does Torrent draw off of its base cost or the cost that you pay?
The cost that you pay, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. But if you happen to pay full price for Torrent, at least then you get an Altered Chord off of it. So
yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I think the reason Torrent used to see play was because it killed giants, right? Back when that was like relevant. So
it also like you can be happy with overkill on it, but you don't have like this. I think it's maybe fine in that deck.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just super underrating this card. Okay, how about Inza? This is a 5 mana 5/5 battle cry. For the rest of the game, your overload cards cost 1 less. It is a 5 mana 5/5 though. And I'm thinking about like it's just Frog Shaman, right? It's the only deck that I keep coming back to. Are we playing a 5 mana 5/5 in our Frog Shaman, or are we playing like the quest in our Frog Shaman? And I think like the quest reward kind of just.
Yeah, I don't I don't think this wants to reduce like big overloady things. I think maybe, like I think you want to be killing them close to turn 5 or so with a frog shaman deck. So I don't see him going in there, but I don't know. It is mana cheat. It can, but like this type of mana cheat tends to be less than ideal, right? Because it's happening. You have to draw the card, and then it has to happen like pretty late in the game as a result of that. Late in the game, at the very least, it's happening in turn 5, right? So like that's already kind of approaching the late game for Wild.
Yeah, I mean, like I think the idea would be that you play like Prescience and you get like this, and like a frog. You play this on 5 and then you kill them on 6. I don't think it's actually like really faster, and it's kind of like 2 very passive turns in a row. And you don't really have like a ton of super amazing like 0 and 1 cost overload cards that deal damage. So the pool isn't probably where it needs to be. So yeah, I don't really see it.
Yeah. All right. We have Jive Insect. I'm not giving the name what it deserves, but it is a 5-mana fire spell that says transform a minion into Ragnaros the Fire Lord. Overload 2. So when I saw this card revealed, I was like, would I put a 5-mana rag into my deck in 2023?
Yes.
And I think that's how you evaluate this.
Yeah, you
play
probably
5-mana
would.
rag?
Yeah. I mean, turns your idiot
Don't sound
totem
very confident about that.
it makes your idiot totem useful. Yeah, it's very obvious Zentimo synergy as well. So if you're doing like a Galakron Shaman, that might be worth just like shoving this in there.
Yeah. It requires you to be like a head on board, right? Or to have like a chisel or something equipped. So if you're playing like an aggro shaman, where this was basically like a bigger, better Leroy, then that's a nice home for it potentially. But I say the words aggro shaman, and I'm picturing the deck list, and then I realize that I've got a time machine to 2017 because I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
Right, and it hasn't, in part because it hasn't gained anything in a long time since 2017, essentially.
What do you guys mean? Aggro Shaman is just Shutterwalk Shaman because they vomit out a huge board of Murlocs on turn 4 every game and kill you.
True. True. So this also plays nicely with that. So
you make your giant board of Murlocs on turn 4, and then turn 5 you hit them in the face and turn one of them into a rag.
You make your Toxfin useful.
Yeah. Well, more useful than he already was. All right, last but not least, we have Pack the House. 7-mana spell that says summon a random 6/5, 4, and 3 cost minion overload 2. I mean, with an evolve that is 8 mana for a random 7, 6, 5, and 4 cost minion, which is a lot of stats, but
Tiny Toys did not work in Wild. This is not going to work in Wild. There are too many bad random outcomes, even for Evolve Shaman. It's just way too expensive and way too slow.
I agree on all points.
Yeah. All right. We have one new Warlock card to talk about, and that is Rin, Orchestrator of Doom. 5 mana, 3/6 with Taunt, Death Rattle. Both players draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, and then destroy the top 2 cards of their deck. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about this card other than disappointment, but
yeah. I mean, it's going to make a lot of new and or inexperienced players really mad, like Ticketus did. But really, like Ticketus did, it should make you happy that your opponent is running such a bad card in their deck.
It's so bad, lad.
Yeah, it's
what
real
happened?
bad.
What happened here?
I tell you what, though, I am going to cube it. I'm going to copy the cubes. That's a great idea.
You know what's hilarious though is that this is just going to blow up your phylactery in half your game, so it's going to be super frustrating. And so then
no, but that highlight video is going to be crazy.
I know. Don't worry, I'll find a way to shuffle more cards into my deck with. Yeah. First, I'll double the phylactery with Tamsin. First phylactery goes on Rustwick. Second phylactery goes on Rin, and then GG.
There you go. That's
or I'll just create a bunch of ties, and that'll be funny too.
Yeah, I mean, like neither player can have cards or like anything in hand or anything in deck. It'll be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just play the Demon Seed Raffle, and then you don't have to
Right.
worry about fatiguing.
Well, I mean, to be fair, nobody actually wants to play cards in a card game. They just want to watch me make it so that they can't play cards.
When I saw this card, I was reminded of the conversation we had about what's his name, Tony, the pirate, the one that swaps decks. I'm just like, if this is not fun for either player, like, and it's not good, then like, what's really the point of printing a card like this? Except for like the 1% of people.
I think the point of making like an unfun card not good is that you don't want it to be good.
That's
Right.
fair. That's fair.
Do we need to learn
it then though?
Well, because
someone will enjoy.
Right.
People
me.
will enjoy it.
I'm the reason to. I want to do this to people. I want to make it so that they discard cards, even if they're like ending up net neutral in terms of like hand size by the end of it. This. I like these cards. I'm mean. I want to be mean to my opponent sometimes, and it shouldn't be better than this. It shouldn't be good because
That's fair.
because you don't want it to have a play rate outside of people like me that are just doing it because it's funny. And are doing it because it's good, right? That's we learned that with Theatar, with Elucia. Like, you want to save those for exclusively for people that just want to make somebody else miserable for a bit.
Yeah. It's probably going to be extremely overplayed, similar to Ticketus, in terms of how good it is. But I don't know. I saw this and I was just so disappointed because I don't know. As bad as OG Rin was, I was like, all right, maybe we'll finally get a good one, and then no. But yeah. All right. Speaking of good cards, Warrior still doesn't feel like they've gotten any ?
This is tough.
I speak the truth. All right. We've got 4 spells to talk about. Let's start with the legendary one: Black Rock and Roll. 5 mana fire spell. Give all minions in your deck attack and health equal to their cost. It's a 5 mana spell. Why can't we also just buff the cards that are in our hand too while we're at it? Like,
well, I mean, it makes sense that it would only hit your deck because you're going to play this on turn 5, and then you're going to die on turn 6 from your opponent's board. But at least you don't die with a bunch of buffed minions like looking at you like, oh, if only I could have made it this next turn, I would have been able to play this. So like it helps solve some of that pain involved in getting stuck with a bunch of stats in hand. They're in deck instead, where you can't see them.
Some upside to this thing, though. I mean, if you kind of squint, it's almost very similar to Deck of Chaos. So it could be a similar one powerhouse.
It is. It is a Deck of Chaos. It's Lorthamar with no body, and we know how strong Lorthamar is in the wild format.
It's baffling to me that we went like a year of Warrior being trash, and then they were just like, all right, you know what? Let's rein in the power just in case for Warrior in it.
I don't hate this card instead.
Really? I think this.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I think it's okay. Like, it's a win. Like, I don't know. It's a lot of stats that you get on, especially on things like Ziliax, right? Where you can kind of like mitigate some of what's going on.
What I'm actually going to do with the card is Odd Warrior with this Bran and actually Lorthamar and the Hydra thing to bash my opponent in the face a bunch. So you brand the Lorthamar, you play this, and like that thing's, or you play this, then you brand the Lorthamar, and that baby's ready to deal 30 to face in no time.
And then you like have drawn the copy of it before you get to do both of them, and then you're
trust me, I've already tried. It's horrendously miserable to play. I did not Lorthamar a single minion in my experience. It's horrendous. I hate it, but I'm gonna try it again.
Are we going to acknowledge the Naga Giant charge combo here?
What is it?
Well, there's also the Molten Giant charge combo, right?
Yeah. I mean, you will be low health after you play this, so that's the same thing.
If there's one thing Warrior excels at, it's getting to a low health total.
So maybe, like that's a clean 30 damage.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, you could Finley, to get to the bottom and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a thing. I don't know how you're building an entire deck around this one-of legendary that you can't tutor. But I forgot where I was going.
Tradable. Tradable thins your deck so that you can get to the combo.
Of course.
You just run a bunch of heavy plates.
Yeah, I hate where we're going with this. All right. Let's talk about the other little cycle of cards here that Warrior got called Rifts. And so basically how these work is these are 3 Warrior spells. If you finale them, you will replay the last riff, except if that last rift was also finale, it doesn't trigger the finale. So it only casts 1. You can't like chain 4 or 5 of them together. That being said, let's start with Verse Riff. It's a 2-mana spell that says give your hero +2 attack this turn, gain 2 armor, finale play your last riff. I think you guys have probably seen this meme on Twitter somewhere, but you guys know that in 2014 they printed a card called Claw for Druid that does this exact same thing for 1 mana instead of 2.
But that card was good, right?
That's why they had to nerf it. Yeah, agreed. Warrior. Yep.
Okay, let's look at the other riff cards, Meowth.
Okay,
I mean, like, it's synergy based package, so like,
it has to
this
go
one isn't
uphill
that
from here,
strong.
right?
Exactly. It has to get more powerful.
All right, let's move on to the chorus. 3 mana. Draw a minion. Give it +2/+2. Okay.
Hold on. To be clear, I think that this is the only playable one in
Playable's a little bit of a stretch, too.
I know. That's even worth looking at. Like, I think the fact that it tutors specifically a minion, like, it can get you your Tony combo.
Yeah.
And then, like, if we're talking about the potential of that deck, like, I think this one is probably the closest to being a consideration. And then if you do play this just to draw your very specific combo, whether it's Tog, whether it's Tony and Steam Cleaner and those types of things, probably are just forced to carry the other 2 bad cards. But I think this one in the right circumstances is at least playable.
Yeah, I actually definitely agree. Where if you are playing a Tony Steam Cleaner deck, you play very few minions and you just play this. And then the other 2 come along for the ride.
Right. They're kind of there on accident.
Yeah.
God, it must have been some accident to willingly put Verse Riff and then Bridge Riff into your deck, which is a 6-mana spell that says summon a 3/4 rocker with taunt and a 4/3 with rush. 6 mana for 7/7 stats.
There needs to be a better payoff than this card for this package to exist at any point in Wild.
I believe they've confirmed there isn't. This is it.
Okay. GG. You play Chorus Riff and then consider the other ones if you need to fill out the rest of your deck. But
unironically, I would, even if I'm playing Chorus Riff, I am not putting the other 2 cards on my deck on purpose. I probably.
I feel like you do. Like I feel like you're already playing.
I think you do, just because you don't you're not playing a lot of minions to begin with, so you're kind of need to fill out spells that do close to something with the rest of your deck. And
too close to anything.
I mean, they stall out. Both of them stall out, which is what you would want in that deck as well. I don't know. It feels bad to see Warrior already in a bad spot get such a seemingly weak parasitic mechanic introduced that takes up 3 of its the card slots this set, plus a pretty bad legendary spell. So it's gonna need a fair bit of help. It got pretty decent cards for the core set, but it for Wild that doesn't impact Wild, so it needs something with these last few cards.
Just so annoying. They're just so bad. Not only are they just bad, they're just boring, right? That's even the worst part, is that even if you bump these up, I'm still not excited to play. They just seem more boring relics. They just seem there's it's they don't scale as well. The effects are way more boring. What do you want to do? Claw? Or do you want to draw a whole bunch of cards and get mana discounting, or summon a whole bunch of fatties? It's no, I'm gonna play Claw and Call to Adventure. It's what are we doing here?
It takes the kind of the annoying parts of relics, which is their clunkiness when you play, especially the first 1 or 2 or so, and then takes away its best part, which is the late game scaling, the excitement of okay, well, it's bad now, but look at what it could be. And it's just there's nothing to look forward to with the riffs, really. What, you play Bridge Riff after another Bridge Riff and you get 14 stats for 14 stats in Wild, even on turn 6, is it's just not a good enough payoff.
And the craziest part is, like, you only have these 6 cards, right? And they can't even play it on the one turn. And if you ever float a mana, you die in real life. Like, there's nothing that you can do. I immediately asked when they were revealed, I was like, okay, so they have to, like, infinitely chain, right? Because that's the one way that you make them fun and scalable. And, like, the finale effect triggers for the last one, then that one triggers, and you just keep on building up this thing. And it's fine because, again, you can only play 1 per turn, and you have to hit the exact mana. And, you know, it's still not that crazy of a payoff, even by, like, the 5th card, which you only have 6 of, and it's going to be, like, turn 12 by the time you play it. And they're like, no, it just the one card gets replayed, actually. Like, you play your Call to Adventure, and you get a Claw. What are we doing? Like, why?
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels bad, man. Hopefully Warrior gets some more help with it. The set's not over yet for Warrior. It just it doesn't look. Yeah, there's more. There'll be plenty more to complain about.
So much more to disappoint us.
Don't worry, guys. The set's not over. Is that a threat, Roffle? Like, what are you trying to say?
Oh, it is a threat.
God. I don't even remember what cards. I don't even remember what cards are rotating for Warrior. Like, do we have any hope for the class?
It doesn't.
Just
The best cards that are rotating were like nerfed pretty heavily, right? Well, no, because From the Depths isn't yet rotating, is it? They're stuck with it at 4 mana for a while longer. Those dummies over in Standard. They're never gonna get to play Warrior again.
It's actually insane, dude. I feel like we've had those Warrior rants so many times in just like the last 2 weeks, but oh god.
I think there's probably, unless there's something dramatic in the last few card sets, there might be more hope for Warrior in Wild than there is in Standard.
Just saying something.
And like the one Standard deck that's going to be there is the Tony Warrior, which everybody's just going to hate.
It's gonna absolutely hate, yeah.
Yeah, which, like, again, I'm not entirely sure they knew existed, which would be very funny if that's the one spot where the riffs actually are relevant. It's like, oh my god. It's like...
Whoopsie.
Oops, we accidentally made Warrior viable?
Oh. Yeah.
And you asked like which cards are rotating that were nerfed and stuff that it might be get reverted. It's just the Pirate Warrior quest.
That's it. Oh, dude, there's no hope. Is it bad that I kind of just want a reversion for the Pirate Warrior quest?
No,
because I just want the class to be playable. Like
no, get out! How dare you? We don't need change for the sake of change.
I want every class to be playable, even if it's at the same
not like that.
Sanity, you know. All right, well, Roffle, I will get out because it is the end of the card reveal episode. We made it. We're through after 2 episodes now through 109 cards. I think we're making good time, better than we normally do. Which means that by our next episode, we'll only have 26-ish cards left. I don't even know how many cards there are now in a new expansion because they added a new class. Is that 135 still?
No, that's more. I don't know what that number is.
All right, just kidding. We've got another long episode coming for you guys at the end of all of this next week. My bad. But yeah, I mean, in those large things, we've got 8 mage cards, we've got a bunch of warlock cards, and we've got some hope or more despair for warriors. So we need to talk about next week.
The last thing that I'll say about Warrior is riffs look bad. I think they'll probably be bad. The community as a whole has freaked out and been very, very wrong a very, very large number of times. So put the pitchforks down for a little bit, see what else Warrior gets, and see how they play, and then start, the rabble rousing.
Yeah, I have no idea how these are going to play in Standard. They'll probably be fine in Standard. I can't imagine they'll be... I know nothing about that format. There's no shot they're playable in Wild. That's the one format I do know, and there's no shot.
No, they're unlikely to do anything in Wild, but that's not what they were printed for.
They will be buffed,
or something at least will get buffed. All right, I know we're running a little bit long, but one final comment from you guys. What are the cards that we've talked about today that have you the most hype? I know they're not warrior cards, but what are you kind of excited for out of the things we talked about?
Probably the Outcast Demon Hunter. Like, that's already a really fun deck. I'm a little bit concerned about it. It's long-term strength in the format if it continues getting good cards like this, because it can really do some scamming. But that's what it is required to be a good deck in the format. So I think it's a very fun deck to play. I think it's like right up there with Beast Hunter in terms of like I don't know, like an aggressive deck that's fun to play because it's so highly active in the amount of cards that you're playing and the turns that you have to set up. So that's probably the one I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah, definitely that. Looking forward to like the rogue stuff, like Kingsbane. I didn't expect to get like random Kingsbane support basically, but that's cool. And some of the hunter cards continue to kind of excite me. I know like some people have been a bit down about the hunter set. I actually think it's like actually a pretty cool set. I do wish they would stop going back to the big beast so often at this point, but apart from that, pretty good I think.
Hey, look, it worked in standard, right? So that for the big beast stuff at least. Wasn't there a big beast hunter deck in standard?
There was for a while.
Yeah. I mean, so it paid off, right? Going back to the well eventually paid off for them.
Also, Questline Druid's gonna be broken, but I'm not excited about that part, which was
so that
was your question. Yeah.
The deck that I was probably going to talk about was the Questline Druid, or just like Druid in general. Man, our first episode where we talked about freaking instrument tech, and
yeah,
whatever Druid it ends up being, it's going to be Twig Sphere Druid, and it's going to be powerful. I feel like consistently having 10 mana on turn 4 seems pretty good in the game of Hearthstone. So yeah, I mean, lots of exciting stuff, and hopefully more to come, especially if you're a Warrior fan or a Mage fan. Hopefully you got some more exciting cards. But that's going to be it for us today. Roffle and Corb, thanks again for joining me so soon after our last episode. But appreciate you guys, and let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch and YouTube at Roffle. Streams on both, VODs every day on YouTube.
And you can always find me at Corbett on Twitch or Corbettgames on Twitter and YouTube.
You guys can find me at Get Me Out on all those platforms. Thanks again for listening all the way to the end. Hope you guys are enjoying card reveal season and card review episodes, and we will see you guys again next time. Later.